Because if you do your research, the guest will respect you more because you've gone out of your way to find more about their life, to dig a little bit deeper, and this will fall in your favor.
Welcome to the Soundboard with Tofe Podcast. To the industry leaders and forward-thinking companies, this is your resource to become a better podcaster. You'll be taken on a journey to learn tips and tricks around podcast strategy, editing, and curation. And here's your host, Tofe Evans.
Welcome back to the Soundboard with Tofe Podcast. I'm your host, Tofe Evans, and this is episode 25. In today's episode, we are going to talk about how you can interview like the pros and stand out. This is mainly if you are interviewing a guest or guests. However, this is still applicable if you're doing a solo episode. I have 3 ways on how you can do this, so let's get started. The first one is about being a very curious person. Now, this is a habit that's going to take time unless you are a really good listener and you know how to extract the right questions. But the top podcasts, they do this very well. They're naturally very curious. They're exceptional at asking thought-provoking questions. And this is mainly to turn heads and to push bias on challenging stigmas and myths. Now, who does this well? The 3 people that I can think of straight away: Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss, and Lewis Howes. What they do is they want to get to the root cause of something. So for example, a guest may touch on something. Now what they would do in this situation is they would go deeper and they would go deeper. What it does is it allows the interviewer to take control of the interview, and it becomes really thought-provoking for the guest. They may have not been asked a specific angle of what they're talking about before, and it really extracts a different perspective. And if you are a listener to that, you are going to be very engaged at this point. Because what I have found are the most engaging podcasts do really challenge on those stigmas and those myths. And this is one of the best forums to do so, with it being a very conversational style. I do encourage that you do ask the thought-provoking questions and go deeper into what your guests are talking about, because you don't know what gold you'll get from that. The second tip I can give you to interview like the pros are speaking about topics that can be deemed as taboo, because this can be seen as, in quotations, controversial. This is what creates discussion when it's pushed out to social media. The person that I am finding doing this the best right now is Steven Bartlett. You've probably heard of him. If you haven't, you've been living under a rock. He has just surpassed Joe Rogan in Spotify downloads, and Joe Rogan has a $100 million Spotify deal. Steven Bartlett is awesome at really talking about the things that other people might not want to talk about. Now, this is a tricky one, because if you're dealing with a topic that can be very sensitive, what I would do in this case is speak with the guest beforehand. Make sure you get consent on any specific topics that may be seen as controversial or taboo. Get that consent ahead of time and let them know how the conversation will go. Not only will it give context, but you have the opportunity to shine light on a topic that other people won't talk about. And if it's done right, your show or that episode will be the one that is shared out via word of mouth to listen to it. I've seen that done very well. And Steven Bartlett is someone who is doing this better than anyone else I can see. Now, the third and last tip, how you can interview like the pros, is asking questions that the guests haven't been asked before. Because what usually happens is this response: wow, that is a really good question. Or, damn, I've never been asked that before. Or, wow, you've really done your research. Any of those responses or something near of usually is the response to a really good question. Often a question that's never been asked before. What this means is you are going to have to do your research. If you're someone like Tom Bilyeu or Sean Evans from Hot Ones or Nardwar, these guys are setting a really good example on how to interview. Because if you do your research, the guest will respect you more because you've gone out of your way to find more about their life, to dig a little bit deeper, and this will fall in your favor. Because what usually happens is the interviewer does little to none research. They'll kind of do it on the fly. I'll put my hand up for this one. I've done this way too many times. I've also done a lot of researching for guests, and the interviews that do better are the ones where research is done ahead of time so that I can ask the really good questions. Research could be seeing a guest on previous podcasts. It could be doing any sort of social media hunting. It could be finding them in articles. It could be anything whatever your research process is, make sure you do that because the guests will really appreciate that too. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Please share it around if you found it valuable, and I will see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening, and for more information about Soundboard services, please check out the show notes. Lastly, Soundboard acknowledges the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, paying respects to elders past, present, and emerging.